A young woman, Luisa, angrily stamps through the woods and then throws away the assault rifle she's carrying into an empty field, yelling in frustration. Article 4 of the German Constitution flashes up on the screen, highlighting the right of any German citizen to resist those who seek to abolish the order of the country as a federal republic. Luisa is walking through town on a gray morning. She meets her friend, Bat, who introduces her to a few others, and they all head together to a dumpster to scavenge for food that's been thrown out fresh. They manage to avoid the police and take their haul back to a makeshift hideout. Inside, there are many people all gathered around cooking and talking. It's an anti-fascist commune which Bat is a part of. Luisa stands up and introduces herself as a law student who went to school with Bat. They were on the student council together, just the two of them on refugee support. She asks to join the commune and says she really admires what they're doing. They ask her how she makes a living and she admits that her parents are supporting her, which doesn't go down well with the group, but Bat vouches for her, and on the strength of her having legal knowledge, they agree to let her join. Bat tells her not to worry about her cold reception and that she just needs to prove she really wants to get involved. They're soon planning to interfere with a fascist protest, which is the perfect opportunity for her to join in. One of the guys shows a presentation on a screen, outlining the security detail that will be at the protest, an outlawed company which is being paid directly by the political party funding the protest itself. He warns people not to mess with them. Bat stands up after the presentation and thanks all the groups that responded to their call to action, but reminds everyone that they do not want violence at the protest. They want to make noise and cause a reaction, but they need it to be peaceful. Luisa walks around the commune, checking out what's going on. There's a gym where people are training, and some others are working on a huge banner which will be used at the protest. She doesn't feel welcome, so she returns home. She lives in a huge house and is clearly from a rich family. In class the next day, they're discussing constitutional law and how it applies to groups fighting against those undermining democracy. Luisa raises her hand and explains that the rights in Article 4 are only applicable once all other routes like the police and the judiciary have been exhausted, even when those institutions are corrupt or have been violating rights. One of the students in the class gets into an angry political discussion regarding immigration in Germany, and the teacher is forced to shut it down, saying that it's not what they're talking about. Luisa and Bat are incensed that he's trying to imply that the German authorities are violating the rights of the people by allowing illegal immigrants and refugees into the country. Later on, the commune group are at the protest. A woman on a mic is yelling that the security of the country is being undermined. Behind her, the commune are flying anti-Nazi and rainbow flags. Luisa and another girl, Peppa, hoist their banner and call that they're diverse, they're many, and they are standing against fearmongering and exclusion. They chant loudly for anti-fascism. Meanwhile, a boy is taking pictures of the security crew from high up on a balcony. Soon, though, it gets out of control. Some of the boys throw eggs filled with red paint and cream pies at the lady on the mic, who is hit in the face and subsequently escorted away by her security team. The protesters clash with security, and one of the men starts taking pictures of Luisa and the rest of the commune on his phone. He is then hit in the face by an egg and drops it. While he's distracted, Luisa snatches up the phone and runs away. Her pursuer catches and pins her, but she's rescued by one of her comrades, Alpha, one of the boys who was throwing eggs earlier. He distracts him before he can take the phone back and helps Luisa escape. They walk back to the group together and meet up with their friends a safe distance away. They're angry at Luisa for getting involved with the security team, but Bat defends her, saying it wasn't Luisa's fault. It was the guys who threw the eggs that started the whole debacle. There's clearly a rift growing in the group. Alpha scoffs at Bat's attitude and says he'd have been glad to put the guy in hospital and he doesn't care about the damage done to the commune's image by his actions. He gestures at Luisa and tells Bat she shouldn't have brought a rookie. Luisa decides to hide the phone, not willing to tell the others that she stole from the security team after they dressed her down. She feels like Bat will only tell her off, and she has no other allies to speak for, as even Alpha was disdainful to her after he saved her. Bat suggests Luisa comes back to the commune with her, but Luisa dismisses her and tells her she'd rather go home, too worried about her secret. She has the phone in her lap the whole way back, unable to unlock it. Back home, she's alone in her room inspecting her injuries from earlier on when it starts to ring. She panics and throws the phone away, but writes down the number that called it. That night, she's woken by a man's hand groping her, looking for the phone, and she cries silently as his hand touches her. She calls Bat and goes over to the commune straight afterwards. Unaware of Luisa's troubles, thinking it's just about the injuries she got from the protest, her friend gleefully tells her that the group approved her moving in, and they spend the night in Bat's room. Luisa can't sleep, though, and cries alone while Bat sleeps beside her. The next morning, they are cleaning up and setting up Luisa's new room. She still has the security man's phone on her, and she doesn't know what to do with it. She decides to go to the gym and work with some of the others on learning self-defense. She gets into a bare-knuckle sparring match with Alpha, and there's a lot of tension between them, but he beats her quickly. She then picks up some boxing gloves and trains against someone else. Alpha comes over to advise her on her posture. After training, Luisa asks Alpha for the photographer's phone number, the guy who was taking photos from the balcony at the protest. Alpha tells her Leonard's not into girls, but she persists, saying she has something he needs to see. She shows Leonard the secret phone, and he says it's just a burner phone, but she insists the guy wanted it back and asks him to check it out. Later, Luisa, Alpha, and Leonard are in Leonard's room, and he's looking for a way to get the data off the phone and checking out his photos from the day of the protest. Luisa gives him the number that called the phone the day before. Leonard shows her pictures he took of the security team, who are known right-wing militants that are now at every political party event. They get into the phone and find an address. They think it could be where one of the groups have a base. Leonard and Alpha want to check it out, and Luisa invites herself along, saying that she was the one who grabbed the phone in the first place. She wants revenge. In class, she's distracted and checking her messages. She leaves early and asks Bat to take notes for her, but doesn't tell her where she's going as she knows she won't approve of what they're planning. She meets Alpha and Leonard and they pile into a van and head over to the site to wait for the Nazi group to head back to their base. They find a tunnel leading under the highway. Alpha asks Leonard to go fetch the car and check that there's an escape route. Yusa challenges Alpha while they're alone, saying that they don't want her there, but Alpha rebuts it, claiming Leonard only came because Yusa wanted to go. He doesn't let anyone in his room except for his friends, so he must like her a lot to have trusted her to go in there. She's surprised, but grateful that she seems to have an ally. They bury a bag nearby the tunnel and head off. They plan the operation, and Luisa says she'll borrow her parents' car as their escape vehicle. They warn Luisa not to tell Bat what they're doing. They only invite her when they're planning to be good boys. Luisa isn't happy about it, because she doesn't like keeping secrets, but she doesn't protest. They show up later at the commune and Bat greets Luisa warmly. There's a party going on and she asks for $10 from each of them to get in. Alpha refuses to pay, so Luisa says she'll pay for him, and he kisses her lightly on the lips, to a background of wolf whistles. Luisa stares after him as he leaves, and Bat grins. Inside the party, everyone's dancing and drinking together. Bat kisses Luisa and pulls her onto the dance floor. She's having fun with the group and can almost forget her worries. A little while later, Alpha grabs her hand and takes her away to a back room to do lines of coke. Luisa sits with him but doesn't do a line herself. She exchanges a long look with him, who wants her to get high, but she doesn't give in. He seems disappointed, says he'll be right back and heads off, but he's left his phone behind. She grabs it and follows him out, not wanting to stay alone with the others she doesn't know. She can't find Alpha anywhere, but she finds Leonard sitting alone and goes to keep him company. He asks her if Alpha's gone, then confides in her that he hates him, and she giggles and says she does too, although neither of them really mean it. They laugh together for a bit, but then Leonard gets depressed and walks away, frustrated that girls have it so easy compared to gay guys. Luisa can just look at Alpha the right way and get what she wants, but he can't, and he has to watch them together. Unable to comfort him, Luisa watches him go, and then heads off to find Bat, who says she's going to bed. Luisa still has Alpha's phone, so she tries to find him before she leaves. He's in a back room, getting a from someone she doesn't know. He doesn't notice her watching. She's disgusted and disappointed, feeling like she had a connection with him, and sets his phone down nearby before walking away without a word. The following day, Luis is out on a hunting party with her parents. She helps her uncle and father to skin and butcher the animals, but tells them that she still won't eat meat. Her father laughs, but he's happy despite the fact her lifestyle is so different to her family's. He thinks that young people should be left-wing and led by their hearts. Luisa asks if she can borrow his car. Her mother sees her off, asking how she's getting on with studying and offering her old clothes to take to the refugees, entirely supportive of her life and her choices. She loves her parents very much and doesn't tell them she's getting involved in anything dangerous. She puts on her mother's donated clothes later on, doing up her hair and dressing up as a fine lady. Alpha sits in the front with her and makes fun of her well-off upbringing. They're stopped en route to the Nazi hideout by the police and pretend they're on their way to a wedding. Alpha, pretending to be her fiancé, quips at the police, and Luisa tells him off, saying before they get married he'll have to learn some manners. After they're gone, Alpha jokes about marrying her, and Leonard smacks him in the head to shut him up. They arrive at the spot and park up, meeting the others who came separately. There's a total of around 12 of them. They have information that the gathering should be starting at 5 p.m., and sure enough, cars begin to turn up with Nazi emblems on them. The Nazis are threatening the foreigners in the area, and the police are trying to secure the scene. But a fight breaks out. The group head to where they buried the bag, change into black clothes and take out masks, weapons and cans of foam, ready to launch a counterattack against the right-wingers. They run into the parking lot and smash up all the cars there, using the foam to blow up the exhausts, and smashing the windows and roofs. They get away with it, but Alpha persuades them to stay and wait for the Nazis to return to their cars, wanting to take them on in a fight while they're not expecting it. Leonard and Luisa both think it's a bad idea, but Alpha won't leave, so they stay against their better judgment. It's dark when the right-wingers return, and a brutal, bloody fight breaks out in the parking lot. Luisa can't bring herself to attack anyone, but she's badly hurt by a woman who attacks her with a weapon. They throw flares at the scene as the police arrive, and flee into the tunnel, Alpha carrying a barely conscious and bleeding Luisa on his back. She lies in the back of the car on Alpha's lap, and he cries as he holds her, trying to keep her awake. Both he and Leonard are extremely shaken up by the extent of her injuries. Leonard drives her to a man called Dietmar, who stitches up her wound. He's not a doctor, but he's a reliable friend who has some medical knowledge. He disapproves of what they're doing. While Luisa's leg heals, they watch the news describing the events, but Leonard turns it off, angry, saying it was a disaster. Luisa says determinedly that she'd do it again. She feels these people deserve to be punished. They all sleep together in the same bed at Dietmar's. Luisa wakes early and finds herself touching Alpha's arm tenderly. He wakes at the feeling and takes her hand in his own. There's a moment between them while Leonard is still asleep to Alpha's right. Then Luisa drops her eyes and accuses him, saying he slept with everyone who joined the commune except her. He tells her Leonard forbid him to, worrying that Luisa likes him too much and he'll hurt her. Leonard wakes up and says it's true, and that Alpha hasn't slept with him either, then puts his hand on top of theirs. Back at the commune, Bat screams at them all, saying it's fine to use violence against objects but not against people. Peppa asks them to take it outside because she's worried they'll bring the police to the door with their raised voices. Once outside, Leonard speaks up, saying they need to do more, but Bat continues her tirade, saying that someone else will have to pay for them angering the Nazis, some innocent person who had nothing to do with it. She glares at Luisa in disappointment. Luisa leaves Alpha and Leonard outside and follows her into the commune to apologize, because Bat vouched for her to join and she's let her down. They hug and Bat forgives her. Luisa is getting more and more discontent with the inaction, and feels herself agreeing with Alpha and Leonard that something needs to be done. She goes to meet them outside the commune, and they tell her they're going camping, a cover for another raid. She joins them, and they tell her the man they're after is Manfred Roller, the one who owns the number that called the phone she stole. He was an active Nazi a while ago, but nobody has seen him in a few years, so they're going to check out his address. They call his house and tell him he's going to have a state police visit the next day to see if he's still active. While they wait outside Roller's house for his reaction to their call, Leonard lets slip that Alpha is still studying for his degree and hides at his parents' place to do it. Alpha, annoyed, asks why he's bringing it up, and Leonard says it's because Luisa takes it seriously, and they're very alike. In 1 year, Alpha will graduate, and he'll be there all alone while his friend moves on. Just then, a van arrives at Roller's, and crates are loaded into it, presumably containing all the items he needs to hide from the police. They follow it down the road to a compound, and climb over the fence to watch what happens. The driver takes everything into a secure building in the center and locks it away. Undeterred, they break into the storage, determined to find out whatever Roller is hiding. Inside the box, there's an invitation to an opening party for the following weekend, as well as a ton of hidden explosives. They steal them, not wanting to leave it all there with the Nazis, but don't know what to do with them. There's a huge argument in the car. Leonard wants to get rid of them, Luisa insists they take them to the police, and Alpha suggests blowing up the compound. Leonard is angry, yelling at him that it isn't a game. In the end, they bury them and agree not to tell anyone else about it. Instead, they're going to focus on disrupting the opening party. Luisa can't concentrate in class, saying there's no point in studying law that nobody believes in. Bat asks her what's wrong, feeling like she's done something to upset her, but Luisa can't explain why she's so angry at all this. She's paranoid, hearing every siren in the street and thinking it's for her, feeling like she's being followed, but she knows that she can't stop now. While they're planning how to interfere with the party, some people suggest getting a big protest to try to rally support, but Luisa cuts in that it'll be pointless, that they have to take real action. Alpha jumps to her side, and together they convince the others to smash up the cars again, despite Leonard's protests and disapproval. Alpha yells at him, telling him to sit in his truck like always and let other people do the real work. On the way back, Leonard lays into the pair of them, reminding Alpha why they're doing this, that people can change, learn new ideas, and he's not out to hurt anyone. That's what makes them different from their enemies. Alpha exchanges a look with Luisa, holding her hand, but doesn't reply. Leonard notices their clasped hands and tells them angrily to get out of his van. Luisa brings Alpha back to her room. Once inside, they stare at each other for a long moment. There's a raw tension between them. Luisa steps backwards, laying down on the bed in a clear invitation of what she wants. Alpha watches her, undecided, unsure if he should take this step with someone he actually cares about. They kiss passionately, undressing and exploring each other, but then Alpha pauses, looking deep into Luisa's eyes as he touches her leg, which is still healing from her injury. He asks her if she's serious about this, and she confirms that she is, tracing the shape of his jaw with her fingers. In the darkness of the night, there's an intense connection between them that neither can ignore. The next morning, though, they awake to the police raiding the commune. They manage to escape out of a window before they're seen, but Bat, Peppa, and many others are arrested. Alpha and Luisa don't know where Leonard is, and he's not picking up his phone, so they wait anxiously by his apartment and are relieved when he eventually returns. They're all worried that the police may know about the stolen explosives. Frustrated and guilty, they go to Dietmar's with everything they've managed to hide from Leonard's apartment. Dietmar says he's not getting involved, but he'll keep them safe. Eventually they hear from Bat, who tells them that the group is being investigated as a criminal organization for willful property damage and theft. Their lawyer recommends starting a left-wing campaign to make it public, as the police have no hard evidence on them, and with support they'll be forced to drop charges. The explosives aren't mentioned and it's clear they don't know about them. Bat is furious with Luisa, saying it's her and Alpha's fault that the commune is being investigated. She tells her that she can move her stuff out so someone else can have her room, since she's only here for Alpha. Luisa is upset and tries to deny it, but doesn't know what to say or how to explain. Back at Dietmar's, the three of them try to figure out what to do. Alpha calls his dad, who says he has a lawyer that can get them out of everything. Luisa confronts him, asking if he's just going to give up and let them win. But he shakes his head, saying Leonard was right from the start and he's not a superhero. They're all in way too deep. Leonard urges Luisa to leave with them, but she's angry, feeling like her last allies are abandoning her. She condemns them both for giving up the fight, and Leonard finally loses his temper, telling her not everyone is as privileged as she is and can't afford to get caught. She's not even on the list of people being investigated. Both men leave in Leonard's van, and Luisa is alone at Dietmar's. Luisa asks Dietmar about his past, and he tells her he was in med school before he went to jail for fighting Nazis. Far from deterring her, though, the talk seems to spur Luisa into more action, sick of seeing everyone around her punished for doing the right thing. She returns to her parents' house and steals a set of golf clubs and a hunting rifle, watching them happily drink tea together, and knowing she lives in a different world to them now. She returns to the Nazi compound, watching them set up for the opening party, full of anger and hatred that they are getting away with what they've done to her and her friends. She takes aim, but can't bring herself to actually shoot anyone. She returns to the site where they buried the explosives, intending to salvage them, but finds them already taken away by the boys, and throws away her rifle in despair, the same scene from the very beginning of the story. She realizes that all her efforts really will come to nothing, because they'll keep coming back, and there will always be more of them, and she's not like them. She can't kill a person. Dietmar holds her gently when she returns, letting her cry, and asks if she's going to stay with him. Luisa says no, and he asks her if it's because she's met the person who changed her life. She scoffs and says there's no such thing, but doesn't seem to believe her own words. The next day, she hugs Dietmar and says a tearful farewell as Alpha and Leonard come to collect her. She's realized that her quest for vengeance is finally at an end. The boys tell her on the way home that they're going to give the explosives back to the police anonymously, and Dietmar has agreed to do it for them. She was right all along, they shouldn't have kept them. The words ring hollow in her ears. The three of them return to the commune to find everyone back home and celebrating their return with a concert. They are welcomed back by the crowd with hugs and cheers, and Luisa realizes that this is really where she wants to be. She approaches Bat, who's still extremely cold towards her, and gives her a hug to apologize. Just as they make up, though, the police enter the concert and start moving everyone out of the courtyard. They're being evicted. The commune protests, throwing bottles and chairs, and ends up in a fight with the police. Luisa tries to hold everyone back, but they drag them all away regardless, throwing tear gas into the crowd. The words of Article 4 are narrated as Luisa is taken away, screaming, by police with riot shields. No matter what they do, even if they take the high road, they are going to be targeted, and the law is not on their side. The group hold a memorial to the commune, mourning that their home is gone forever. Leonard looks at Alpha, Bat catches Luisa's eye, and there's a moment of strong resolve between them. This time, nobody's going to back down. That night, the Nazi compound is blown to smithereens.